Hello, welcome to When the Smoke Clears. I am the Recovery Plug. What's happening, everybody? I hope everybody's doing great. So today's another day, man. Another good day. I'm here just drinking a little bit of some coffee and getting ready to, excited to dive into today's video podcast and to share just a little bit of some insight with you guys. You know what I mean? To see what's up with y'all and share a little bit of some more of that experienced knowledge that I have that perhaps can be helpful to somebody out there to, move a little bit closer to their goal in life today, or just to better your day, or just to give you that little push if you need it to, if you're stuck in whatever it is that is bounding you down in your life, you know what I mean? And that's this whole purpose of me doing these videos is that is just to help somebody, you know what I mean? Just to help somebody out there who needs a word of encouragement and who is struggling, whether and when I mean struggling with different types of things, because the things that I talk about are things that I have dealt with personally. And they range anything from drug addiction to alcoholism to PTSDs to childhood traumatic experiences to anger issues to sadness to depression to suicidal thoughts. Just a wide range of things, mental issues, if you will. Neurological brain disorders is what I refer to them sometimes. And it's I've been, my life has been up and down, and I've learned a lot of things, and I've experienced a tremendous amount of things that could be helpful to somebody, you know what I mean? So that's why I do the video podcast. But at any rate, before we get started, if you would, please join me in a moment of silence, followed by a serenity prayer for the addict who still suffers, and for those of us who are still bound down to the struggle, whatever that may be. And so if you would, please join me in a moment of silence, if you would. God, grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, courage to change the things I can, wisdom to know the difference. All right, well, let's get started. Man, I'm excited to talk to you guys about something that has been one of the things that I have incorporated into what I call my recovery arsenal, and it's something that has really, and truly, to be honest with you, that has helped me in a lot of ways, and I've touched on this subject many times in my previous videos. I mention it a lot, and it's meditation, right? And but what I want to share with you today is how to specifically use the form of what they call jhanas meditation, and that is it's not necessarily a type of meditation, but a variety of pieces, if you will, subjects, or what it is. It's that there's about 40 different types of subjects, if you will, of meditation in jhanas, and this is and the way I could best describe it is just focal points of how to meditate. Okay, so what I mean by that is that there can be different ways to meditate, and you can meditate to an object, whether it's just looking at a circle on the wall, or looking at a flame, or looking at just any object in your home. You know what I mean? It could be a chair, whatever it is. And so that's one form. And then there's, the many forms in the natural, in nature that you can use, which could be a lake, a river, some grass, the trees, whatever. And also it could be, you can use death in the form of meditation to concentrate on just different parts of the body, just the soul. Just I know that in Buddhism, a lot of they use that death as a form of meditation, and what it is, it's like what it's called. I guess they call it access concentration, and you're using these different metaphors, these different subjects to concentrate on, to get into that access concentration, to get into that excuse me, to get into that space, if you will, of just you and the object, you and the subject, you and nature, you and whatever it is that you're concentrating on, without allowing any of the excess environment that's around you, come in and disturb that. And so one of the easy things that I've found personally to do that is to count how many times or use a stopwatch. And I like to use my phone because I could visually see the stopwatch going. And what I like to do is I like to count, see how often my subjects change in my head. You know what I mean? If I use that stopwatch, while I'm looking at the numbers move, I use that as a guide. And every time I switch subjects in my head, I just make a line on my notebook. You know what I mean? Or I'll just tap one time with my finger and so forth. You know what I mean? Just to see if I can gauge how much time it takes for me to switch the mental focus. You know what I mean? So the point of this is it's just an exercise. You know what I mean? That's what it is. It's an exercise that you're exercising the brain. And when you do this on a repetitive basis, what you want to do is you want to start small. You want to start with 10 minutes, 5 minutes maybe, and just guide that. You know what I mean? Set a time, the clock on your phone or whatever, and just watch it and see how many times, with you just concentrating on the numbers or on your phone or the corner of your phone, whatever it is that you concentrate on, but so that you could see the screen and see that time. And every time your mind wanders, you notice the time and figure out it kind of gives you this metric gauge, if you will, to see how long it takes your mind to switch to different subjects, because the mind is constantly doing this. You know what I mean? You think about one thing, and even before you stop thinking about this, you're thinking about something else. It like overlaps the thought. You know what I mean? And the whole point of using the jhanas meditation is to close that gap of the time so that you can spend more time in the access concentration of that space. And you'll know what that space is when you just, it's almost like you visually see yourself getting closed up in this little circle, and you'll feel your body just start going limp, and everything just goes away. And the only thing that you can hear is the stillness of things being still, like there's no action, there's nothing happening in that particular space, in that particular point in time of your mental concentration. And that's where you want to be. That is where you want to be. That is the space of access concentration that allows you to get to the next level. It allows you to see things that you probably hadn't seen, to maybe get some answers to a question you might be having, to get some answers to the next step in your life or to make a big decision. You know what I mean? You're going to find out that if you meditate for a little while and, do this on a consistent basis, that you'll start having clarity in your life. You'll start having clarity in the way you need to move your life around. You know what I mean? Because a lot of us tend to just stay stuck in this puddle of life, and you can't seem to get out of it. You know what I mean? It's like you do this whole thing, and your day just goes from night to day to night, and you're still in the same spot. You know what I mean? Nothing has progressed, and sometimes things get worse. You know what I mean? But by just taking a little bit of time to concentrate and get into that inner space in your mind to figure out what it is that you're going to have to do. Because a lot of times our mind is just masked with thousands of thoughts. You know what I mean? So the more that, and you're going to find this out, that you'll figure out what it is that your mind concentrates the most on. And when you start figuring that out, then you're going to know, okay, well, that is the part that I got to work on. You know what I mean? If every time, if in this little exercise that I'm doing, just say you're doing it for 20 minutes. We'll use that as an example. And you find yourself going back to the same subject. You know what I mean? Perhaps it's work. We'll just use that as an example. And, every, 2-3 minutes, you're back at the work. You're back. That scenario in its work. It's got something that's work related. Now, that's where you spend most of the time. And maybe that is the thing that is stressing you out. Maybe that is the thing that is, maybe you're so worried about work that you're worried too much about it that you don't want to get perhaps fired or laid off. So your mind is always there in that thing. But what you're going to find out is that if you take a little bit of time just to be in that stillness, in that space, whether it's 10, whether it's 20, whether it's 30 minutes, in that space is just what I call the me space. It's just me. It's just me and the energies that I see and that I feel. You know what I mean? And it's just that what they call white noise, if you will. It's just that just blank feeling, and you don't hear anything. And there's a certain I don't know how to explain it, but when it's just totally quiet, totally silent, there's a noise to that. You know what I mean? There's actually a noise to that. And it's hard to explain, but it's almost like it's almost like have you ever seen a movie and there's like this big explosion and the person that's close to the explosion just hears, they can't hear anything, but they can see people in chaos and they're just yelling and crying, and this person can't hear that. It's just still noise that they can't hear, they can't do anything but just see the chaos around them. It's similar to that. You know what I mean? So there's this noise to it, but it's hard to explain it, but that's my best analogy on that space noise, and in that particular moment, because it's only going to last a little while. You know what I mean? Because our mind tends to just keep racing to something else, to something else, to something else, to something else. You know what I mean? And the practice is to try and stay in that particular space for as long as you can. And it can be done because I do it, and I've gotten to pretty good at I haven't been, I'm not going to say that I've been real, good at it, but I've been able to do it for, sometimes a minute, sometimes 5 minutes, even up to like 10 to 15 minutes, where it's just me and that noise, that stillness, until I hear, something in the distance. I'll hear, if I'm doing it at home, I'll hear somebody rev up their car, or, the people who, I live in an apartment, and so the people that live up above my floor, the second floor, I could hear them, walking or something, you know what I mean? Something comes up, or my refrigerator, makes a noise, and I could hear that. And yeah, so it's there could be distractions, right? So I found that I've been able to, as long as I've been doing this, and I've been doing it for, gosh, I want to say probably about a year and a half now that I've been doing this practice, and it's really worked for me. You know what I mean? It really has. And the more I've been doing it, the better that it has been getting, the better I feel. I just feel like because I start my day with that meditation. And when I start with that day with the meditation, I have a clean slate in my brain, in my mental thought process, that is just nothing. You know what I mean? So then the first things that I put into my thought process is, I will either read something, I will recite prayers, or I will do some Om chanting, meditation, something that's going to be positive. Because if I put some positive thoughts, something positive, or I'll watch an encouraging podcast, when I do stuff like that, then that's the first thing that's in my mind. Well, then that's how my mind's going to operate for the day. You know what I mean? That's exactly what I'm going to be. My mind's going to be there. And if I keep putting positive, spiritual, and encouraging things in front of me, and I allow that to be my environment, well, then the probability of me staying in that positive and spiritual space is going to be pretty high. You know what I mean? It's not going to be likely that there's going to be some negative things happening in your life when you do that. You got to realize that. You got to understand that the more you put spiritual and positive things in your environment, that is where you're going to be. That is where your mind's going to go. That's where your soul's going to go. That's where your emotions are going to go. You know what I mean? How amazing is that you can do something like that and be the driver of your mental thoughts. You know what I mean? And not allow the environment, not allow the things that are happening on your phone, your social media, whatever. Let that dictate how your life is going. I mean ultimately you have control of that. You know what I mean? And that's the beauty of this whole jhanas type meditation, that there's a vast variety of concentrated subjects and objects that you can use to further your meditation processes, and to roadmap, if you will, your mental thought process of your day, to be something of a positive and spiritual nature. You know what I mean? Because I spent plenty of years in the darkness of addiction, and that's exactly what I fed my mental thought process, was nothing but dark and negative things, and that's what kept me bound down. And until I changed that thought process to just feeding myself positive and encouraging and spiritual things, and letting that be the environment that I fiddle around with. You know what I mean? Because what you decide to play with is exactly the type of dance that you're going to be doing. That's just exactly the type of projects that you're going to be involving yourself in. You know what I mean? Those are the type of cycles that you're going to be that are going to be coming into your life. If you decide to keep that mental thought process of like, oh, these people suck, or I'm not good enough, or I can't do that, and it will never work for me, and all of those types of things, you know what I mean? All of those are negative things. Now just try to do the things in a positive sense, and start coming up with different mantras and different things that you say every single morning. I can do this. This is where I'm going today. The roadmap of my life today is going to be nothing but spiritual and positive things. And keep yourself that, and make yourself accountable. You know what I mean? Write them down if you have to. You know what I'm saying? Join a peer support group if you need to. You know what I mean? Talk to some encouraging people. Talk to people who have been there and done that. Because ultimately, I do this video podcast because I've been there, I've done that. And if I could share my mistakes and my experiences that have gotten me to a better place, well then, why not use something that has helped somebody else? You know what I mean? Because it ultimately can help you. And that's ultimately the bottom line is that we've all are where we are at today, in the present, in the here and now, through the actions of someone else. You didn't just ultimately wound up here on your own, reconnaissance. It wasn't your job. You know what I mean? This didn't happen because it was something that you thought of. You know what I mean? You thought of the things you thought of through other people's experiences, through your environment, through something else. You know what I mean? If you're doing, whatever you're doing because you watch something, if you're starting to make this meal because you watch somebody's showed you this on a cooking channel on YouTube, well then that's exactly what I'm talking about. You know what I mean? You're cooking that meal because you saw it through the efforts and through the experience of someone else. Does that make any sense to anybody? I hope it does. But yeah, so that's why I wanted to share that with you guys, man, and hopefully that it doesn't take long, and it's just a few minutes of your day, and just try it. You know what I mean? Set that stopwatch on your phone and just concentrate for 15-20 minutes and set it. As soon as you hit that clock and let it start rocking and rolling, start noticing. Use something, and before you hit the start button on that stopwatch, pick something. You know what I mean? Say that little red button on your phone, or one of the corner pieces of your phone, or whatever that you're gonna use, and use as a pinpoint. Use whatever it is, or maybe it's just a mental thought that you have that maybe you want to say. You were thinking maybe just for example. We'll just say your truck or your car or maybe your kids or something, and keep that mental thought in your head, and just keep concentrating on that, and see how long it takes for you to concentrate and to have that thought change to something else, and see how many seconds that took, and then keep gauging it like that. And the ultimate point of the exercise is to try to stay on that one particular thing that you're thinking about longer. You know what I mean? And do this every day and see how much longer you can do. And it works, man, because like I said, I've been doing this for about 1.5 years, and I started where it was just seconds, 30 seconds, 10, whatever. And it's gradually gotten longer and longer, and I've gone to where I can keep a train of thought for 10 to 15 minutes, you know what I mean? And it works, you know what I mean? So, and this is just a good exercise. It's good practice for the to get your mental states, your brain works, it works. You're working it out, and it's great because when you do that, man, you'll find that you'll start, wanting to do more things like that, wanting to do more encouraging and positive and spiritual, things in your life. And it's just weird, but that's what you start attracting those kind of things, and it's a good thing, right? But at any rate, I hope you guys really, I hope this was helpful for someone, and I guess at this time, if you would please, give me a thumbs up. give me a comment and tell me what you think. And you know, if you would please share my channel, and you know, hit that subscribe button and share my channel, because the only way that we can, you know, spread this message and help other people is by sharing it, right? And so yeah, if you would please share my channel, I'd greatly appreciate it. And just know that when you do share the channel, you'll be helping out another veteran, another homeless person, another person dealing with PTSDs, childhood traumatic experiences. You'll be helping somebody else out, you know, suicidal thoughts, depression, drug addiction, because I, my friends, have dealt with all of those type of things. And I'm living proof that you can get past a lot of those things. So yeah, so at any rate, I really appreciate you guys watching this video. And I guess until the next time on When the Smoke Clears, I am the Recovery Plug.